Congratulations is in order, grade 2. You have finished the first bend of this unit, which means you're halfway through this unit of writing already. And a double congratulations because your writing has been spectacular. So spectacular, in fact, that I have decided you should graduate from working on the letters you've been doing to writing longer big kid letters. And I talked to your grade 3 teacher for next year, and she couldn't believe that you guys are already going to be working on longer letters. And I also told her that I'm going to teach you guys about paragraphs. She doesn't think you guys are ready, but I know you are. So if you're not up for this challenge, then just turn this video off now because you are not ready for grade 3. But if you're up for a challenge, if you're up for some hard work, keep watching because I have a video for you. So today I want to talk to you about making our writing stronger, longer, and more convincing. Okay, so we've talked about these first few things already. We've said introduce the book. We've said write your opinion. We've said give reasons, like saying because, and give evidence from the book, like saying for example. And today the things we're going to talk about are adding sections or pages and using juicy story words, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So I am going to write about James and the Giant Peach. So before I start writing, I need to do a little bit of planning because if I'm going to be writing a really long letter, I don't want to just be rambling on and on and on. I should just plan a little bit about what is it that I'm going to write about. So let's say I'll try to think of like 3 things. Now, I want to make this letter longer than my other ones have been. So I want to talk a lot about each topic. What's something I could talk a lot about? Well, I could definitely talk a lot about James. I know a lot about him since he's the main character. So I think that's going to be the first thing I want to talk about is the character of James. Okay, what else could I talk about? Do you know one thing that's really interesting to me are the ants. James's Aunt Spiker and Aunt Sponge. So could I write a lot about, I think I could write a couple pages. I could talk about how mean they are. I could talk about why we don't like them. I could talk about what happens to them. So I think I could have a lot to say about James's ants. One more thing. Well, I could talk about different things that happen on the peach, but that part's not that interesting to me, but the ending, I really like the ending. So I'm going to talk about the ending of it. All right, now I want to write a longer letter, so I'm going to have to give details for each thing. Now, writers, between each section, you can either start writing on a new page, like we have been doing. So if I have 3 ideas, that means my letter should be 3 pages long. Or, here's that secret grade 3 word, you could start a new paragraph. Okay, so paragraphs are kind of ways to contain your ideas as if you were writing on different pages. So in our writer's workshop, we've been doing your first idea on one page, your next idea on the next page, and your last idea on the next page. If you think you're ready to try paragraphing, what you're going to do is put your first thought into a chunk, leave a space, and put your next thoughts. Okay, so for example, if I'm writing about James, I would write, James is so cool, and then I give all these things. Now, I still have lots of room on my page, so I don't need to start a new page, but I will start a new paragraph. So I'm going to leave some space, and then I'm going to start talking about the next thing. So I could say, another interesting character are the ants, and then I talk about the ants. And then when I'm done, I don't need to start a new page. I can start a new paragraph. So I leave a space, a couple of lines, and then I start talking about the next thing. The end is amazing. Now, this doesn't work if you keep talking about the same thing in your new paragraph. The new paragraph has to be your new ideas. It's as if it's a new page. Of course, they're from the same letter, so you can refer to what happened on the previous paragraph, but I wouldn't start a new paragraph and then keep talking about James. That doesn't make sense. Okay? So, I think I should write this letter so that I can show you guys what I mean. So, I think I'll write it to Mrs. Slava, and I have some paper here. Just give me a second. Okay. Done. All right. Here is my letter to Mrs. Slava. Now you'll notice, look at how long this letter is. Okay? This is what I'm looking for from you guys. The reason that I have been talking to you about chapter books is, number one, because I think you should be able to read them by the time you go to grade 3, most of you. And the second reason is that it is a lot easier to write lots and lots about a chapter book than it is about a storybook. You're gonna run out of things to talk about if you're just telling about a storybook. So I really, really want to encourage you guys to write this letter about a chapter book that you have read. If you have not read a chapter book yet, that's okay. If you haven't tried reading a chapter book yet, go ahead and try it. You have nothing to lose. The worst thing that happens is you don't understand it and you just say, I'm not quite ready for that book yet. That's okay. Readers start and stop books all the time. Sometimes I start a book and I'm just not in the mood for it, so I stop it and I start a different one. Maybe you'll start a chapter book and realize you're not ready for it yet, and you'll just move on to a different book. Okay, but I really want you guys to have at least tried a chapter book. And if you've read one already, which I know many of you have, that's what I want you to write about. So I'm writing about James and the Giant Peach. Here is my letter. And I chose to write this one to Mrs. Slava. Dear Mrs. Slava, May 20th, 2020. This year my class read James and the Giant Peach. It is a chapter book written by Roald Dahl. Oh, now I need to pause there because I forgot to tell you guys about the juicy story words. So, part of making our writing stronger and more convincing is using words that come from the story. So as writers and readers, we all have agreed, everyone in English has agreed, that certain words mean certain things. So if I say the word character, I'm talking about the people in the book. Setting is where the book takes place. Plot is what happens in the book. Chapter is a way of organizing things that happen. End page is the last page. Title is what the book is called. An example is when you specifically say something that happened in the book. A main character is the character who is in the whole book or who the book revolves around. Okay, so a main character doesn't leave the story, doesn't die, doesn't, like the story revolves around their life or their thoughts. And then a side character are other characters in the book that are important to the main character, but they're not the main one. So these are some juicy story words. And if you even want to pause the video, take a picture of this, or write these down, you're going to want to use these words in your writing. So back to my writing. The main character, here we are, the main character is James. At the beginning of the story, his parents die. He is a very lonely boy. But as the story goes on, he makes some wonderful friends. They are very unique friends. He learns a lot about himself, and by the end, he knows he is brave and kind and worthy of love. So in my planning, I said the first thing I would do is talk about James. So I'm done talking about James. And notice I didn't reveal anything that would spoil the book. I didn't tell Mrs. Slava that his new friends are bugs, because that's a surprise to leave for the book. Okay, so I have written about James. I am done talking about him, but there is still room on my page. I'm going to start a new paragraph. So I've ended that, I've left a space, and now I'm starting my new paragraph. So I said I would talk about the ants. So let's see what I could talk about referring to the ants. The most repulsive characters are his aunts. When his parents die, James has to move in with the aunts. They are lazy and selfish and mean. For example, they don't feed him. They make him do all the housework, and they call him mean names. We don't like these characters, so we are pretty happy when something bad happens to them. Again, I don't want to ruin any of the book. I told about what happens without actually giving away what happens. And I have written about the aunts, and now I'm done. So I'm going to start my new paragraph. And the last thing I said I would talk about is the ending. In the end, James is happy, and he gets to have many friends. After all the adventures of the book, the author ends with a peaceful, happy life for James. He even becomes famous. Why? Well, I can't tell you the whole thing. Go and read James and the Giant Peach, and then tell me what you think about it. Love, Miss Roy. Okay? So that is what I want. That's a lot to consider, but I think you guys are ready for it. You've become just amazing writers over the past year in grade 2. So I think you're ready for this challenge. I can't wait to see your stronger, longer, and more convincing letters this week. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I know this video is coming late in the week, so if you aren't finished working on it until the middle of next week, that's totally fine. But see if you can go ahead and get started. Bye, I love you guys.